Check 1, 2. Okay, good evening, everyone. We'll call this meeting to order.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our March 11th Supervisor meeting. I am Supervisor Birmingham. We have Supervisor Erler, Supervisor Ekman, Supervisor Friedman, and Supervisor Albert. So we do have a quorum for tonight's meeting. The agendas are up on the podium if anybody needs a copy of the agenda. Have all the supervisors seen tonight's agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to amend the agenda for tonight.
Okay.
I'd like to move number 8, land development, up to number 7 after the financials.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion carries.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to include public comment before the executive session.
Ron, are we able to do that?
I believe it was discussed at the last meeting that there was a concern that there isn't public comment at the end of the meeting like there used to be. Since it's public comment and since you're not spending any township money, you're not creating any cost of money, you're not doing anything in that regard, I think you could make that amendment. But if it's going to be carried on in the future, make sure the agenda shows it. That's all.
Okay. Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, any other amendments to the agenda? All right. Moving on. Oh, let's do yes, Fred. I did roll call. That's okay. That's okay. Okay, so let's approve the agenda in its entirety now at this point. All right, I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda with the 2 amendments.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll open it up for public comment. 3 minutes for public comment. We'll keep timer right on here. When you come up to the podium, just give your name and address, and after you do that, I'll start the timer, and you have 3 minutes. So would anybody at this time like to make a public comment? Fred, you're first.
Good evening, Fred Clark, Crystal Terrace, Mount Bethel. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Today I would like to speak about leadership and respect. This town needs leaders with enough courage of their convictions to discuss the merits of any issue with any taxpayer or citizen, which includes developers, former current supervisors, commissioners, committee members, and people they don't like and that don't like them. Commissioner Friedman showed this kind of leadership at the recent special meeting when, despite his reservations, he withdrew the motion to dissolve the municipal authority. His willingness to listen and negotiate before acting was commendable. Leadership was also displayed when he resubmitted the motion, because leaders demand mutual respect, if not for themselves, then for their office. And that was lacking in comments made about the board and in calling one supervisor untrustworthy. A defeat was snatched from the jaws of victory due to unnecessary comments that undid any progress made toward a negotiated settlement and pushed the process towards litigation. I commend this board for considering the appointment of an RPL liaison to move us back in the direction of negotiation. Litigation is a costly process for both sides and should be the option of last resort. To find the best solution for their stakeholders, each side may need to leave the hill they're defending to the death and look in the valley that lies between them, because that is where the answer lies. I approach and treat my position at this podium with the respect that is due, as a platform to exercise my First Amendment right to speak to my government and my fellow citizens. I make every effort to stay within the 3 minutes allotted for public comment and sit down when my time is up to demonstrate my respect for that right and for everyone else present. Others choose not to demonstrate this level of respect by approaching the podium without being recognized, refusing to leave when requested, or simply shouting from the audience. Some attempt to draw the head table into conversation to gain more than their allotted 3 minutes. While these people sometimes have valuable information to present, they refuse to honor the rules of conduct established for them to present it. This clearly demonstrates why a former supervisor pointed out that public comment is just that, and this is not a conversation. I have often heard one supervisor emphasize how important it is for leaders to hear the voice of the people, but believe it is equally important that meeting leaders ensure access to the people's platform is managed equitably and within the established rules of conduct. Finally, I was wondering if our solicitor saw my questions from the special meeting of supervisors and had any comments on them, and I would like to resubmit comments from prior meetings as they are relevant to tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Fred. Right on time. Anyone else, public comment? Mark?
Mark Metzger, 114 Scenic Court, Mount Bethel, Pennsylvania. Mr. Chairman, the 3-minute time restriction for public comment has been in effect at the Board of Supervisors meetings for at least a few years now. The only time I've ever known it to be different was at the beginning of this administration, when you tried to offer people more opportunity to participate at these meetings. And I applaud your efforts. I'm glad to see that it might be getting back to that. However, it did not take long for the people who are antagonistic to this board to abuse it to the point where it was no longer workable for the BOS meetings. So we had to go back to the 3 minutes. The last board under Martin Pinder's leadership strictly enforced the 3-minute rule when standing up the authority. Mr. Karasek, you were present at most, if not all, of those meetings. So with the chairman's permission, I would like to ask his professional legal opinion as to whether or not this 3-minute restriction to public comment violated our constitutional rights for free speech. And as a result, did it nullify the authority's legal establishment? Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Anyone else, public comment? Yes, come on up.
Good evening. Let me introduce myself. I am Gary Astek. I'm an attorney in Easton, and I appear this evening on behalf of the municipal authority. You may have noticed I sat quietly during your special meeting last week and had thought that there had been an intelligent dialogue among the members of this board with regard to how best to approach sewer and water issues that are going to be embraced by this community as the years move on. I'm here tonight to speak as a voice of reason and a voice of calmness, and to suggest that I believe Mr. Clark's comments were correct. There was a very intelligent and thoughtful dialogue among members of this board until personalities and acrimony, past histories boiled over. This is not the time for that kind of discussion. The future of this community is at stake here. Now, I'm no big fan of RPL, and I'm no big fan of warehouses and all sorts of other major developments. As a municipal solicitor, I have to deal with them on a day-to-day basis. But I signed on as a solicitor to this municipal authority because I felt as though I could make a difference. I thought that what I brought to the table and what the men on the authority brought to the table were an opportunity to relieve the board from some of the responsibilities, take responsibility for the issues that the community was going to raise. This is not a rubber stamp board, and I don't intend for it to be so. On the other hand, we need to sit down. On March 4, I submitted a letter to Mr. Karasak. I asked that the municipal authority sit down and talk to you in a spirit of calmness and understanding. We believe that there is much for you to learn away from the yelling and screaming, away from the personal hatreds, away from the history that has brought us all here. I thought that if we sat down, we could explain to you in much better detail the mission, the goals, and the purposes for which I believe the authority was created. On about 90% of the meeting went by with positive discussion until everything went south. It wasn't a pretty scene for me sitting in the back row. It showed the fact that emotions are prevailing over reason. That's not what you should be doing. And at this point in time, if you're going to shut me down, I'll sit down, but I just like to finish my thought.
Go ahead.
I encourage you to defer any further actions with regard to the authority. Defer them until you've had an opportunity to sit down and discuss this. No harm will come by doing it. Harm will only come by trying to kill what is a well-meaning endeavor. I think your solicitor will tell you we don't need litigation. We don't need expenses. What we need is an opportunity to sit down and reason with each other to get you to understand how we can be a valuable addition to your community. That's why I'm here this evening, and I hope whatever actions you were intending to take tonight, and I have no idea what they were, but you would table it all until you've had a chance to sit down with us. I think you would be doing the community a disservice by rejecting that offer. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Charlie.
Good evening. Charles Cole, 6 Riverton Road. I don't think there's anything that we can do as a municipality that an authority could do better. An authority is not what we need. Municipal water and wastewater can manage itself here as a municipality better with looking into what the residents want. Last time there was conversation going on saying, well, if you put in sewers for a small part of the community, it's going to have to be paid for by the whole community. You do sanitary surveys, you set up sewage service areas, areas of concern. You don't have to have the whole community paying the cost of what is necessary for a local area. So I don't think there's anything that a municipal authority can do that you can't do better for the residents as a municipality. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment? Yes.
Hi, Mr. Chairman. Don Moore, Plainfield Township. I hope you'll give me a few minutes. As a former supervisor of Plainfield a couple months ago, I was going to attend your meeting regarding the community discussion on the RPL. Wasn't able to, so I'd just like to make a few comments. Give you our perspective. We are very concerned. We believe that we're very concerned about the possibility of traffic going through both Tatamy and through the Wind Gap, Penargil, Plainfield Township corridor on 512. The developer said it doesn't seem that that's going to happen, but we're very fearful. We believe that logistically that would be a way that a lot of traffic will go. So we do have that concern. We have not really had a good response from PennDOT when it came to the CRG project, the major warehouse that's right between Wind Gap and Penargil on 512. And so we're pretty concerned about that corridor. While I'm standing here with my experience, just my couple observations in watching your meetings. The municipal authority discussion was very thoughtful, absolutely. But it went south, in my opinion, watching, because the developer didn't want to accept either of the two options on the table, neither tabling nor, of course, the disbandment. It seemed that any delay might be a concern for them. I think you need more than a month. I think you need a few months. What you talked about, talking to Tatamy, and ironing out some of the questions that were, some of the things that were not addressed when they did this the first time. Starting over is going to give you a chance to appoint a new board, which may include some of the current members, but may include, Mr. Erler mentioned lack of diversity, and I think that many people would agree that that's an issue on the board, and I think the gentleman that mentioned eminent domain concern, he might change his mind. I think in watching and listening to him, he'd be a good asset. As a few of your citizens have observed, your community has had ample opportunity on multiple occasions to make their votes known, to make their opinions known. And so, you see a couple of the same people addressing the board time after time that were part of making this happen in the first place, that got you in the situation you're in. I think your citizens have spoken very clearly, and it's not really my part as a citizen of this community to speak on that matter. But when you talk about respect, that generally speaking, the person who stood here and said that there's people now taking an opportunity to go past the 3-minute time limit that's always abided by in the meetings we've had in our town, I think it shows a lack of respect to this board. And so I encourage you, I wish you well in the rest of your agenda tonight.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Don Moore, M-O-O-R-E, yes.
Anyone else? Public comment? Rich. Rich Klingel, 850 Todd's Gap Road. Did we purchase an excavator?
No.
No. All right,
Oh,
well,
you mean the one that we just got today? That's a rental.
all right, so what are we doing, jobs that we're renting?
We have a lot of work to do, Rich. We got a lot of mitigation going on. We have work to do on Belvedere Corners, River Road. We have trees that we have to take up.
Isn't that what that one was bought for?
What?
The other excavator out there?
That's a smaller one, the 85.
All right, so why did we get rid of the old one? Because if you remember correctly, they said, we got to get rid of the old one because we need a smaller one.
Right.
We don't use that old one, the other one now because it's too big for jobs. So we sold that one, and now we're renting a big one again?
The reason why we got rid of it was because it was old and it was so costly to fix. And we said we weren't going to buy another one, but we would rent one. It's cheaper for us to rent one than to buy one. So we're going to keep this for 2 months and give it back, and then in the summer we're going to get it again for another 2 months. There's a lot of work to do out there, Rich.
Yeah, but it was said in front of this board, the previous board, in fact, that we don't need a big excavator like that. That's why we have to buy that small one. So they purchased the small one because we didn't need a big one. So now we're renting a big one instead of keeping the big one that we just sold because we didn't need it.
No, we sold it because it was breaking down. That's the reason why, because of the age. That's why we sold it, because it cost us $30,000 to fix it. We couldn't amp that up again.
Yeah, but 10,000 of it was because of people touching it that didn't know what they were doing.
That's a whole, you're right, it's a whole nother.
And the board let them do it. The board didn't say nothing.
I wouldn't blame the board. The previous manager hired somebody that was.
All right, but
they're the ones that oversee the previous manager, right?
I can't speak to that, Rich.
So you guys let him get away with it. Now, you never did come up with anything with the manager, how much he can spend, which I never heard of it yet.
Now, we haven't discussed that, but it's something we should. We should put that on an agenda coming up. Tabling.
I mean,
Put it on-
I
put
think
it on for the
$10,000 that the
25th.
township manager can just spend without any kind of approval is kind of ridiculous.
Agreed.
That's all.
Thanks, Rich. Anyone else? Public comment? Okay. What? Oh, sorry. Come on up, Ron.
Good evening, Ron Angle, $1 Million Highway, Upper Mount Bethel Township. I think one only needs to turn on the news or read the newspaper to see there's unrest and turmoil around the world. There's also unrest and turmoil here in Upper Mount Bethel Township. I don't know as we can do much about all these problems around the world, but I think we could do a lot here in the township. Mr. Kaplan gave out a loose leaf binder. Some of them remained on the table. Nobody even took them home. They were certainly probably worth reading, and you could have got some ideas. But I am beginning to wonder, we have this situation where it seems like there's two sides in the township. We need a township that's all together, not two sides. And whether or not you like River Point or don't like River Point, it's zoned for that. They brought it in there. And you're looking to disband the authority. And I think Mr. Albert said it, and I think Mr. Erler said, but then he voted a little bit differently, that let's take a little time to research this and see whether it is good or bad or what could be beneficial out of it or not be beneficial out of it. And that seemed to be falling on deaf ears. And I think the gentleman from Plainfield Township said something interesting also. But again, the Act 537 plan has never been put in place. We have no facilities here to take care of any of those problems. This would have been a start. But again, instead of trying to sit down and negotiate with River Point on some of the things you liked or didn't like, nobody seemed to want to do that. But that could have been done and should have been done. I think it still could be done, quite frankly. And I see you have on the end that you're going to appoint a liaison to River Point. I don't know if that's wind addressing or what the purpose of that will be, but I think a lot could depend on what happens here earlier in this meeting as to whether that would be of any value at the end of the meeting. But again, let's try to be a township that's united. And the only way we're ever going to become united if we stop this bickering and this arguing and all these things. We can't stop what's going on around the world, but we certainly have the ability to stop it here. Why wouldn't we do that? Why wouldn't we sit down and look at the pluses, look at the minuses? It seems like one member here's mind has been made up from square one. He doesn't want River Point. He doesn't want any of those things. Okay, they're already there. Do we want lawsuits? Do we want to spend our money on litigation? Or do we want to spend it on our roads and on a municipal building maybe, and other worthwhile things for the people who live here? Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment? Judy.
Judith Henkel, 1752 Robin Hood Road. I agree with most of what's been said, but I have one question. If you all decide to stop and start meeting with River Point, does that mean they will stop with the zoning hearing board hearing, or are they going to just keep pushing through to get as many approvals as possible while you're sitting down being respectful? Thank you.
Thanks, Judy. Anyone else? Public comment? Okay, thank you. Moving on Number 4, announcements. Jonathan.
Yes, I have a few announcements. In the heart of transparency, I, within the last week, met with Ed Nelson, who's our old town manager. I met with Scott Cole and Ray Higgins, who are both on the EDC board, and they were also on the Municipal Authority board. As the new liaison to the EDC, even though they haven't had a meeting, month and a half ago at the last meeting, I got a chance to see the pamphlets that they're creating for the town and town businesses. At the meeting with Scott Cole, he got a chance to show me one of the finalized products, and it looks really good. I'm excited for it. Another announcement is a formal recognition to thank Mr. Pector of RPL for donating the trees to beautify our Mount Bethel Park. So, thank you formally. I would like to start in some kind of theory crafting of ways that we can assist the businesses that are in Mount Bethel that are located directly on Route 611, since it will be closed for the next 2 years. I do think that maybe the town could offer them something. I know that they are hurting for business, especially the businesses that rely on through traffic, such as Kelly's, the Overlook, and Dutz Veterinary. The other 2 businesses, which are Superheat and Custom Heliar, don't really rely on through traffic. So I think we can kind of omit them. Also, there was a member of our community that passed. He worked for Ultra Poly, and a unfortunate event. He did pass away. I don't have all the information on it. His name was Jeff Delp, with his wife Marlo and his, I believe, 4-year-old daughter Ava. If we could give a moment of silence for him, I would appreciate it. All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jonathan. Corey?
No.
Jason?
Yeah, just at the end of last year, a young man, Jacob Smith, came up in front of the board to ask for, removal of the sign fees. I'm working on his Eagle Scout project. I've been friends with the Smith family for many years. Jacob has worked on that sign. It's over at the Little League fields here. It's very nice. Now that we have daylight, you can see it better when you leave the meetings. And they're not done over there. So there's a lot more projects going on at that facility over there this spring. So help to clean it up and beautify it over there. So keep your eyes open. They're gonna, for the benefits over there for those guys.
Thanks. David?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. The Well Ordinance Committee will be meeting on the 13th. Hopefully, this will be our last meeting before presenting the revised well ordinance to the board. We vetted it with our township engineer, our township zoning officer, our township solicitor. And like I said, if you want to come to the meeting, everybody's welcome. That's all I have. Thank you.
And the meeting's right here at the Township Building?
Yes, it is, on the 13th at 7 o'clock.
Thank you, David. Just a couple things. Barbara Wolbert, who lives here in Upper Mount Bethel, is going through a very difficult time. She's been in the hospital for over 2.5 months, just recently came home, and her family is trying to support her. They're going through a challenging time. So if you have an extra $1 or $2 that you can help the family out, there's a GoFundMe on my supervisor Facebook page. It's for Barbara Wolbert, and her daughter Lauren used to work here at Mount Bethel Pharmacy. Really nice family. So if you have a dollar, $2 or $5 or whatever amount that you can help them out with, please go to my supervisor Facebook page and look for the GoFundMe for Barbara. Miller's Egg Ranch is having I guess they do this every year. They have a summer camp program. They've been doing it since 2001. It's for the kids. It could be the kids in Upper Mount Bethel. You don't have to live in Upper Mount Bethel, but if you want to bring your kids to Apple Blossom Village, it's Miller's Egg Ranch. It's a summer camp program. They are trying to set up scholarships for families that want to enroll their kids but don't have the money. So this is another great cause. If a local business out there in Upper Mount Bethel or our surrounding communities, it's $350 a week for a child. So if you want to sponsor a week, or 2 weeks, or whatever, local business or even your family wants to support a child to go to summer camp, please get in touch with Miller's Egg Ranch. They're right in Apple Blossom Village on Allegheny Road in Upper Mount Bethel Township. And if you need their phone number, you can call our township building. We're also going to be doing another fundraiser. This is for the Joanna family, and this is the free recycling day that we're going to do it in April, I think is what we talked about.
We haven't decided yet, right?
Yeah, well, we were thinking maybe April, depending on, with Ray and see when he's available. But it's going to be a free recycling day here in Upper Mount Bethel where you can bring your electronics, TVs, laptops, whatever, and it's free drop-off, and then we just ask you to make a donation of any amount, and that will go to the Joanna family. Mark has been battling cancer for a long time now, and recently got sick and has been out of work. And Joanna family is just a lovely family. They live here in Upper Mount Bethel, and we're just trying to find ways to support them. So even if you don't have any free electronics that you want to drop off and you want to make a donation, just see our township secretary, Cindy Beck, and we'll take the donation from there. And Mount Bethel Pharmacy is having their first annual Easter egg hunt. It is March 24th at 12 p.m. You can sign up for pictures with the Easter Bunny. There is a fee for the pictures, and you can even bring your fur babies if your fur babies want to get in the picture with the Easter Bunny. So they welcome all. And it'll be rain or shine. It's at the Mount Bethel Firehouse. And there's going to be prizes for kids. It looks like it's from infants all the way up to 12 years old, it looks like. But if you have any other questions about that, get in touch with Mount Bethel Pharmacy. And just one other thing that I wanted to bring up was I was talking to Nick about doing, and this is a question for supervisors as well, but having a garbage day. And what did we decide? Were we thinking once a week, or were we thinking?
Well, it was up to you, but once a week, maybe a Sunday for 2 hours, whatever.
Yeah, we were
5, of supervisors and myself. I could, fill in for somebody that's not able to do it.
So it would be basically the supervisors, we'd rotate, would come down here, could be a Saturday or Sunday, depending on everyone, that supervisor's schedule, but would just come down to the township building for 2 hours, open up the dumpster, and then if you have trash, from whether it be a party or what have you, you could come down here, you could put your trash in the dumpster rather than either waiting until garbage day, and maybe you only have the one garbage, the big 96-gallon garbage can, and maybe you need more. I don't know. So this is an idea that I'd like the supervisors to discuss, and I'd be happy to go first and just come down Saturday or Sunday for 2 hours, and then you have to be a resident of Upper Mount Bethel, but you could come down if you had extra trash you wanted to put in the dumpster. And that's it. That's it for me. Moving on, number 5, consent agenda. We have the meeting minutes from February 12th, the meeting minutes from February 26th, and the special meeting minutes from February 28th, and the exonerations refunds. Does anybody want to take any of those out of the consent agenda and put it on to the action items for discussion? Okay. Then with that being said, we'll keep everything on the consent agenda. And can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 6, financials bill list. Nick?
Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, can I add announcements to this? Because I didn't get a chance to speak with
Oh,
you.
yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, Nick.
I wanted to thank the people on Institute Drive, our residents. That's going to be closed until the 29th for our fellow amphibians that are mating. We got some good news in the papers, which was nice, from the county. But I just want to thank them, and I know it might be a little thing to endeavor for the, endure the endeavor that we're doing for the community. We're the stewards of our own township, and the county is our partner. So if I can help with the county and with us, I want to keep that cohesiveness going together. So I want to thank them on Institute Drive. It's closed from Tots Gap to House 377, I believe. But I want to thank them. We will start listing stuff on Municipid. There's going to be mowers, weed whackers. We have a scanner that we're going to get rid of, some file cabinets, chainsaws, what have you, some equipment that will be posted on Municipid, and anybody is able to bid on those items. So we'll be probably within a week, we'll be posting that on Municipid. And then also to what Rich was, Klinger was saying, the reason why we got the excavator is because Justin and I had a meeting with the Bridge Authority from PennDOT, the inspector. We had 6 bridges that were inspected, and most of the bridges are fine. They need some mitigation. That's why we have the excavator, because there is some things that we have to do. We need to reach to get down into the water and make sure that our bridges are fine, because bridges are expensive, as we discussed previously with the small bridge that we have, the state has down by Mr. Engel. But we do have one bridge that's going to need mitigation, and we're going to have to do bidding for next year before it gets critical, and that's going to be around a $200,000 project. So I just want to let the board know what we have to expect for next year, because we're going to have to budget for that, because there is no grants for that. It's our money, and there is some liquid fuels money that we can use for that, but I don't know how much we're going to have left over from this year. We'll be doing, might as well tell everybody, we're going to be doing a lot of road work this year, River Road, Laurel Hill. There's a few other roads we're going to be doing. We just have to sit down with Justin. We have to put projects together. But we're going to be spending a lot of money on the roads, which they need, and that is what the townships are supposed to do, is take care of the roads and make them safe for everybody. So I just wanted to let everybody know what we did this week. The bills, the general fund has, we spent $166,890.02. There were interim bills ACHs of $22,138.58. The rec fund had $50.63. The fire tax account was $1,182. Interim bills of ACHs of there from the fire tax account was $515.10. Road machinery fund was $8,965.98. The EIT open space fund was $34,452.20. Liquid fuels fund, we spent $24,082.11. And the escrow account, we only have one, which is Ultra Poly Recycling Center was $8,116.50 for a total of $266,393.12. Mr. Chair, make a motion for pay the bills.
Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion, we pay the bills.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, number 7, action items. First up is Ultra Poly.
Land development, right?
Good evening.
Attorney Pete Lehman, and I have with me our engineer, Adam Trillo from Bowler Engineering, and Dave LaFura, the president of Ultra Poly. And as you probably know, we were in front of this board after being in front of the Planning Commission both last year for preliminary plan approval for the Ultra Poly land development. We received last month a recommendation from planning unanimously for conditional final plan approval, and that puts us before you folks tonight for hopefully conditional final plan approval. Now, I know that 3 of the board members were not on the board last year, so just a quick refresher. We've got the actual aerial photo plan just to remind everybody where the site is and what Ultra Poly is. Ultra Poly, of course, is headquartered and has 2 existing buildings on Demi Road in Portland, just off River Road, just south of the interchange going over the bridge. And these 2 buildings are in Portland Borough. They're in the Portland Industrial Park, which is not only the 2 Ultra Poly buildings, but Air Liquide, and then a little further to the south, 2 custom laminated buildings. So it's an existing industrial park with a public road, Demi Road. The new site of the 3rd recycling building would be outlined in red, and then there's going to be a truck garage, which is outlined in blue. Again, both off Demi Road. The utilities, as with the rest of the park, would be applied for by, and we've applied to Portland Borough. The sewer plant is at the end of Demi Road, so there's sewer mains anyway. The water would be through the Portland Borough Water Authority. The water tank is actually here. So there's an existing water main going in front of both sites. So the utilities would be through the existing Portland Borough Authority utilities and Portland Borough, which runs their own sewer plant. So again, this is a local company, a family company that's been here since 1997, founded by Dave's father, Alan, and now headed by Dave and his 2 brothers, each of whom have their own area of responsibility. So we're in front of you for conditional approval tonight. And I guess I'd like to, before we get into the nuts and bolts of the conditional approval review letters, which have been done by Mr. Coyle, to sort of ask Mr. LaFura to say a few words, unless anyone on the board has questions for me.
Any questions from the supervisors?
Not for the attorney, maybe for the engineer when after his presentation.
Okay. Well, maybe Dave says a few words, and we'll get into it when Adam begins to get into the nuts and bolts.
Thank you, Pete. Thanks for having me, everybody. And I'd like to start by thanking you for acknowledging the passing of Jeff over the weekend. That was a tragic loss, and we are reeling from it as a company. He was a great friend and coworker, and it's going to take us some time. He fell into a retention pond on our property. A horrible tragedy. So, with that being said, a little bit about what we do. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Ultra Poly. I know there are some new supervisors in the group, so I will give you the high-level summary of what we do as a company, and then if there are questions, I'm happy to answer them, all right? So, generally speaking, we consider ourselves to occupy the last step in the recycling value chain. And when I say recycling, I'm referring to plastic recycling exclusively. So we only recycle polyethylene and polypropylene, which are the two largest commodity plastics that are in circulation today. We purchase scrap from across North America, and we chop it up, melt it down, and turn it into resin, which we then sell as a raw material to industry at large. So our customers include several large blue chip manufacturers that you have heard of. So anyone from General Motors down to advanced drainage, the black corrugated pipe that you see on the side of highways, that contains our material. Several of the goods that you would see on the shelves in Walmart and Target and Lowe's contain our plastic. We don't make those articles, however, we supply the raw material that is used to make them. As Pete alluded to, we've been operating here in the Slate Belt since 1997. We moved here from Hackettstown, New Jersey, and then prior to Hackettstown, we operated in Newark, New Jersey for several years. So the company was founded in 1974. So this is going to be our 50th year in business, and we are leaders in the recycling industry. We are one of the 5 largest asset-based plastic recyclers in the whole world. And so we're quite proud of that. And this building is going to be a continuation of that success. So this will be simply an addition to our existing capacity. No new processes are envisioned. It is really a straight capacity addition. I think that we have a tremendous relationship with Portland. We've been established there again since the late '90s, and we've been great stewards in this area. We have not interacted as much with Upper Mount Bethel because we don't have any buildings in the township until now. A note on our employees. So we do employ about 220 employees company-wide. Here in the Slate Belt, we employ about 170 to 180, depending. And this building, we're anticipating to hire approximately 55 to 60 more. So that's everything I had prepared. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. If not, I can turn it over to...
It's not, maybe both of you. In the future, do you plan on having to convey any materials over Demi Road to get one from one facility to the other?
That remains to be seen.
Pardon?
That remains to be seen. Currently, we do produce material in one building and move it to the other. We do that using trucks.
Now, you're familiar with the cement mills in Nazareth, how they have their conveyors over the roads?
I am not. I mean, I can imagine what you're talking about, and nothing like that has been discussed.
All right, thank you.
Any questions from the supervisors?
Okay.
Justin, any questions from you?
No, this went through Planning Commission review. Like was mentioned, they did receive a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission. We went through a pretty comprehensive review during the preliminary plan stage, so this is basically dotting the i's, crossing the t's, so to speak. They did go through the waiver request previously under the preliminary plan. They actually went through zoning special exception and I believe some variances. So they've been through the full gamut of land development. And they did have some exhibits they showed at the Planning Commission meeting as far as some renderings. We thought that was very helpful. Do you have those to share tonight? Thank you.
I'll step down. Thank you.
Thank you.
is just simply a rendering of the site. This here is ultimately a rendering of the building with various view sheds.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there any way you could either use the mic? That would be great, so people can hear you at home.
Sure, is this better?
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry if I'm leaning over here. So ultimately, the rendering over on the floor there is a rendering of the site just from an overall perspective. The renderings, I have 4 here. Ultimately, there's various view sheds. The 2 renderings you see before you are ultimately from the front entrance and let's call it the eastern side and western side. And then this would ultimately be the rear of the site from the east and west.
And then we discussed at the planning commission meeting how it's actually terraced into the slope. Would you want to discuss that a little further? I believe it's also advantageous to the operation of the facility as well.
Sure. So ultimately, it's terraced. The site in particular is actually sloped from, let's call it, the rear to the front, as in it's higher in the rear and sloped down towards Demi Road in the front. So the unique opportunity that Ultra Poly's operation provides is they actually have 3 separate tiered elevations to their building, which you can hopefully see on this rendering. So it ultimately is, let's say, conducive to the particular property.
One other item I wanted to mention that was brought up at the planning commission meeting, we commended the applicant. They are actually collecting what's called capture and reuse for stormwater geeks. They're capturing and reusing the water that they're collecting on their site in a basin that's actually across Demi Road, and they're pumping it back over to the facility to use for their processed water. So we thought that was a commendable application for stormwater.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Just to elaborate on that a little bit more, that's actually a process that they're actually utilizing in their, I'm going to call it Building 2, their most recently built facility. So we're continuing with the same process. Ultimately, they use processed water to cool their product, and as part of the stormwater design, we're ultimately capturing stormwater from both, I'm going to call it the main site, if you will, with the building on it, and it is actually flowing via gravity down across the street to the truck maintenance facility, where there's ultimately a large above ground basin where the stormwater is collected, and then it's actually subsequently pumped back across the road to be utilized in the main facility to support that processed water.
Anything else, Justin?
No, and then just as far as the closing, we did put together a letter February 19th, 2024, and they were granted recommended conditional final approval at the Planning Commission meeting, so you have that before you tonight.
Okay. Ron, anything you want to address?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have in front of me a signed agreement for conditional final plan approval form. That was signed at the time of the Planning Commission meeting held on February 21, 2024. The conditions that need to be done are noted by checks. In addition to compliance with the Township Engineer Review Letter of February 19. And so that being said, this matter is in a position for consideration and vote.
Okay, thanks, Ron. Are there any questions from the supervisors?
Upon approval, when would you plan to start construction?
That remains to be seen. That's going to depend on the business environment and interest rates, to be frank. So not likely this summer, perhaps next summer.
Anything else, Jonathan?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Any other discussion, or does anybody want to make a motion to approve the conditional final conditional plan.
Mr. Chair, having heard from our engineer and solicitor, I make the motion. We recommend a conditional final land development approval for Ultra Poly in the matter before us.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Ron, do you need us to sign what we signed at planning, or does that work?
No, that will suffice, and then I'll send that to you in a formal letter within the 15-day window.
I'm sure you will. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Moving on, number 2, lawn mowing bid award. Nick?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I forgot to make a comment before about, you were talking about the garbage on the weekends. The garbage on the weekends is just for like extra trash, household trash, not cleanups and, construction, kitchen cleanouts. That's not what that's for.
Yeah, we'll have to come up with the policy.
Yeah, just wanted to just reiterate that.
Yep.
Everybody, all the Board of Supervisors got this. We had 7 bids, and we opened the bids today at 12:30. Out of the 7 bids, the bids varied dramatically. There was an outliner in there too. So, do you want me to read over all the bids that were given and decide?
Yeah,
okay.
that'd be great, please.
One bid, the first bid we opened was Fasano and Enterprises, was $1,850 weekly. The second bid was Pocono Management, which was $1,495 weekly. I think it's Matheson Landscapes was $10,000 per month. Ott's Lawn Care was $1,600 weekly. Baker Landscaping was $6,545 weekly. JBS Landscaping was $2,677.99 weekly. And the 7th one was Ponus Property Concepts, which was $2,400 weekly. So the lowest bid, Pocono Management, $1,495 weekly is the lowest bid out of the 7 bids that we got.
Yeah, Mark.
It's a good question, Mark. That's a good question, Mark. I don't know. The pricing.
And
there's like 3 or 4 of them that are really close, and I was kind of like right on the mark with the guy with Pocono Management. That's what I said it should be. The other one's $150 different. The other one's $250 difference. The other ones are like one's $1,000 more. The other guy, you always have an outlier in Matheson Landscaping. I don't know what he was doing at $10,000 per month. And the other guy, Baker Landscaping, God bless him, I don't know what he was looking at. $6,500. You could ask for whatever you want, but I think that's common when you bid. There's always an outlier, and there's a guy almost in the middle, and the rest are kind of close. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Mark, the scope of work seems to be the same for each, just the prices are different.
Yeah, Mark.
Yeah, they all got the specs. They're all the same specs, and it's pretty self-explanatory. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we gave him, there's 6,500 acres, I think, total. I'm sorry, 65 acres total. We gave him the sites. One of them I took to the sites to show him where they were. That was very basic. It was like, very black and white. So I don't know, to be honest, like I said, I don't know what the differences are. I mean, I've had bids before on business end, and you see that. You know, even to your house, you get these bids that are crazy, and some of them are lower, really low. By, PSAT laws, by township law, you're supposed to take the lowest bid. And the only way you can get out of that is if the person doesn't perform. So.
Any other questions from the supervisors?
Yes, they need, yeah.
No, to understand, there's 5 areas that'd be under this, the Upper Mount Bethel Township Community Park, the Township Municipal Building, the Mount Bethel Firehouse, the Echo Lake Ball Field, and Easton Industries. Those are the 5 areas that will be, that were covered under this bid.
Okay, do we have, anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we award the mowing contract to Pocono Management for $1,495 a week.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Nick. Next up is resolution to dissolve the municipal authority. Is there any discussion from the supervisors?
Yes, Mr. Chair, due to some issues, the last time we brought this up before the board, I'd like to rescind my motion that I made to dissolve the authority at our special meeting.
Adrian, does he need to rescind his motion?
I think we discussed this. It might make it cleaner if we're rescinding the resolution rather than the motion.
Okay. All right, I rescind the resolution, the motion I made to rescind the authority.
Okay. And I don't know if we remember who seconded. Did I second it? See, I'm getting old.
I believe I did.
No.
No, I believe I did.
Jonathan did.
I rescinded because there was an issue about how we passed the motion during the special meeting. That's how our solicitor is telling me how to do it.
Okay, David, anything else?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion for resolution to dissolve the municipal authority.
Adrian, should he read the resolution?
I think we have to vote on it.
We did it last time. I think it makes it complete, and at least we'll have a record, even though it's going to be part of the record. I think we should read it.
Okay. So he made the motion now, so now he should he wait for a second, or should he read?
Well, I think we need to go in order. If he's making a motion to rescind the prior resolution, we should vote on that first. And then if there's a new motion for the new resolution, then move on with that.
Okay. We have to vote on my motion.
Okay, so we need first a vote on the motion to rescind. So that being said,
I made the motion.
you made the motion, so now we need to vote on it.
And we need a second.
I'll second it.
So Corey seconded. Okay, with that being said, is there a vote on the motion to rescind? Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Now, David.
Now I'll make a motion that we rescind make a motion, a resolution to dissolve the municipal authority.
Okay, and do we have a second?
Mr. Chair, I have a point of inquiry.
Yeah.
Has anyone
Hold
on
on
the...
for a second.
Oh, we got to wait
Until
for
there's
a
a second, there's...
Yeah, bring that up in the discussion. So do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, now we'll open it up for discussion. Jonathan?
The point of inquiry, has anyone on this board been reached out to by either a member of the municipal authority or RPO?
No.
I did from the municipal authority.
They reached out to you?
Yes.
Okay. Jason?
No.
Mr. Friedman?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So Adrian, before we vote on this, should he read the resolution or should we just go ahead and call for a vote?
I'm in favor of reading it as we did the last time around.
Okay.
Okay. A resolution directing the Upper Mount Bethel Municipal Authority to pay off its indebtedness, transfer its assets to the township, and to dissolve itself. Whereas the Township of Upper Mount Bethel, herein the township, is a duly authorized township of the second class in a municipality situate within the County of Northampton, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, with offices located at 387 Yield Highway, Mount Bethel, Pennsylvania, 18343. And whereas, pursuant to 53 PACS 5601 et seq., known as the Municipal Authorities Act, herein after the Authorities Act, on or about September 11, 2023, the Board of Supervisors of the Township approved Resolution Number 2023-06, which expressed the Township's desire to organize an authority for the purpose of the provision of sanitary sewer, water, solid, and/or sanitary sewage waste and related utility services to Township. And whereas the proposed sewer authority was organized and approved by the Township through Articles of Incorporation on or about October 9th, 2023, which created the Upper Mount Bethel Municipal Authority, the Municipal Authority. And whereas the Township has determined that the continued existence of the Municipal Authority is not in the best interest of the health, welfare, and safety of the residents of the Township. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved by the Board of Township Supervisors of Upper Mount Bethel, County of Northampton, Pennsylvania as follows. 1. The above recitals are hereby incorporated by reference. 2. Pursuant to the requirements of 53 PA CSA 6519, the Township directs the Municipal Authority with regard to any current projects to pay and discharge all bonds with interest due which have been secured by a pledge of any revenues or receipts of such project. 3. Pursuant to the requirements of 53 PA CSA 6519, the Township directs the Municipal Authority with regard to other property to pay and discharge all bonds issued and outstanding, including the interest due on such bonds, and to settle all other outstanding claims against the Municipal Authority. 4. Pursuant to the requirements of 53 PA CSA 6519, the Township directs the Municipal Authority to convey all property owned by the Municipal Authority to the Township. 5. Pursuant to the requirements of 53 PA CSA 6519, the Township directs the Municipal Authority to take all necessary actions to terminate its existence, including but not limited to submitting a certificate to the Township requesting termination of the Municipal Authority. 6. Pursuant to the requirements of 53 PA CSA 6519, following submission of the Municipal Authority, submission of a certificate requesting termination, the Township by ordinance or resolution approve the termination of the Municipal Authority. The Township will allow 20 working days from the adoption of this resolution for the certificate to be filed with the Secretary of the Commonwealth of PA. Failure to file a certificate within the 20 working days will result in a $100 per day fine for every day the filing is late. 7. Pursuant to the requirements of 53 PA CSA 6519, following submission of the Municipal Authority submission of a certificate requesting termination, the Township by ordinance or resolution approve the termination of the Municipal Authority. 8. Pursuant to the requirements of 53 PA CSA 6519, following the filing of the certificate with the Secretary of the Commonwealth and the Secretary notation of the termination of existence of the Municipal Authority, the Township shall cause the certificate to be recorded with the Northampton County Recorder of Deeds. 9. Pursuant to the requirement of 53 PA CSA 6519, following the recording of the certificate, the property of the Municipal Authority shall pass to the Township, and the Municipal Authority shall cease to exist. This resolution, being duly presented by motion and duly seconded, was carried and adopted by the Board of Supervisors of Upper Mount Bethel Township at a public meeting held on the 11th day of March 2024.
Okay, any discussion from the supervisors?
Yes, I have a question for Justin. What is the purpose of the feasibility study, and why was it not performed?
The feasibility study was something our office recommended back when this was originally coming out, as far as being proposed, as far as a public sewer authority or a private authority. We had recommended at the time to do basically a feasibility study or an alternatives analysis, if you will, for multiple factors, looking at the sewage flows, looking at where the water sources are coming from, potential service areas, evaluating the alternatives, potential disposal fields, expansion capabilities, cost analysis, potential industrial components, township serviceability or capacity, pros and cons of the analysis, responsibilities, Act 537 impacts, potential input from Portland Borough and Portland Borough Authority, and then ultimately comments, concerns, considerations to evaluate the agreement that was proposed in conjunction with the authority discussion. So there were multiple items that we recommended to be investigated further prior to creating the authority. What was the second part of your question?
Why was it not performed before the municipal authority was first established by the previous board?
It was never authorized. The board decided not to pursue it.
But it was recommended to them.
It was recommended by office, yes. Yes. And moving forward, I don't know where this is going to go. Some type of alternatives analysis or feasibility study or cost-benefit analysis, whatever you want to call it, could be performed by another engineer, another outside consultant, not RPL's sewer engineer, not us, since we kind of advised the board. If you were looking for, just a third party or another opinion, you could always do that in the future. But it was not authorized or approved, and we recommended it last year.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the supervisors?
Yeah, pursuant to whether or not this resolution is passed, they can still continue to build their sewage plant. They don't need the authority to build the sewage plant, correct?
I think that you asked that question last meeting.
I did.
And you said yeah.
Okay.
Okay, with that being discussed, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of adopting resolution number 2024-07 signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Moving on, number 9, new business intermunicipal agreement ordinance. Ron?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I think we missed the EAC.
Did I miss it? I'm all...
Number 3, action item number 3.
You don't have it on here.
I haven't, it's because we updated. I have the old one, sorry. Okay, thank you, Ron. This is resolution number 2024-05. It's a resolution of Upper Mount Bethel Township reappointing members to the township's Environmental Advisory Council. Whereas Upper Mount Bethel Township is a township of the second class with an office address of 387 Ye Old Highway, Mount Bethel, within the county of Northampton, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And whereas the township is the largest township by way of land area within the county and is one of the largest townships also by way of land area within the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And whereas Pennsylvania law permits a township to establish an environmental advisory council, hereinafter abbreviated EAC, to advise the township and its various elected and appointed officials on matters dealing with the protection, conservation, management, promotion, and use of natural resources located within the township, and including the acquisition of both real and personal property.
I think you can probably get to the chase and just
Yeah, I
talk
think
about
we'll be here till 9 o'clock if I read this entire resolution, but we
the
do
new
have.
members' names and then what their terms are going to be. Now, when I wrote the resolution, I put the terms as, since there were 5 members, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Former Supervisor Chair Ms. Henkel tells me that they maybe should be 3-year terms or 3, 2, 1. So I'll defer to her as to what the term numbers or the term should be, and we can just change that in the resolution as long as you note who's going to be on what term.
Okay, so I will state who will be on the EAC. So this resolution, the Board of Supervisors hereby appoints the following individuals as members of the EAC. Judith Henkel of 1752 Robin Hood Road, Mount Bethel, PA 18343. Dole DeFebo of 450 Riverton Road, Bangor, PA 18013. Alexandra Dutt of 252 5 Points Richmond Road, Bangor, PA 18013. Allison Heinsohn of 196 5 Points Richmond Road, Bangor, PA 18013. And Courtney Gilmore of 107 Morningside Drive, Mount Bethel, PA 18343. This resolution is being duly presented by motion and duly seconded, was carried and adopted by the Board of Supervisors of Upper Mount Bethel Township at a public meeting held on the 11th day of March 2024. Do we get a motion to pass Resolution 2024-05?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Now, Mr. Chair, again, do you want to put in the terms for the individuals, or do you want to save that for another meeting? But it should be stated in public. But we should check with Madam Henkel as to what the years should be, so that I'm not screwing that up.
Yeah.
D.
Well, this Exhibit A has it blank, right? So I think let's pass the resolution, and then we can update it with the terms per the EAC's discussion.
The resolution, or the original ordinance, had the terms expiring every 2/5 of a whole. So there would be 2 people expiring 1 year, 2 people expiring the other year, and we only have 1, so it would be then just that one expiring the following year. So it could be 3 2-year terms if you want to do that. 2 3-year terms, 2 at 2-year terms, and then 1 at 1-year term.
I'm so confused.
Yeah.
So just like the supervisors, right?
If you want to do it that way, yes. I mean,
so we'll have the EAC's terms to be adopted in this resolution to mirror that of the Upper Mount Bethel Township Board of Supervisors.
We stated the terms so the EAC can name the person that will be filling those specific terms then?
yes, I would, let's say, Ms.
Okay.
Henkel, 4-year term. Ms. DeFebo, the 3-year term. Or you should probably put in the term so that everyone then knows moving forward what their term is going to be.
All right, we'll just put Judy at the top and put the full names in.
You need to do it tonight? Not necessarily, but if you want to get the committee or the council up and running, you might want to do it tonight. It's your call.
All right, so let's do it tonight. So Judy Henkel would be an initial term. Well, I'll open it up for suggestions for the supervisors. I won't just state it.
No, we could put Judy in it, that.
For a 4-year term?
Mm-hmm.
3 years here, Max.
3 years? All right. DeFebo, a term of how many years?
Again, it could be 3, 2, or 1.
Yeah.
You're going to have 2 individuals at a
Yeah,
3-year
with 3.
term, 2 individuals at a 2-year term, and then 1 individual at a 1-year term.
Okay. So you want me to just go 3, 3, 2, 2, 1?
Yeah, there you go.
That works.
Okay. So Exhibit A of the resolution reads, Judith Henkel, an initial term of 3 years, Dal DeFebo, an initial term of 3 years, Alexandra Dutt, an initial term of 2 years, Allison Heinsohn, an initial term of 2 years, Courtney Gilmore, an initial term of 1 year.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
What if one of the members, they don't want just a 1 year or 2? Can they go back for it again? Or, what if one of them won a 3 year or 2 year instead of a 1, just in fairness? And
Yeah.
Yeah, the way I wrote the resolution is that when their term is up, they can then be reappointed for 2 additional years and keep on going 2 additional years and so on.
Okay.
Yeah, so it doesn't mean, so let's just say, for example, Courtney Gilmore's got the 1 year term. When her 1 year's up, the EAC can recommend that we reappoint her. We reappoint her, we could reappoint her for 2 years and then just keep reappointing her as long as she wants to continue on.
Okay.
Okay. So the resolution is out there. It's been motioned. It's been seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. What'd I do? What's that?
I said just put the chair.
Yeah. Yeah.
I second.
Mr. Freeman, I think, made the motion.
Oh, no. David made the motion, sorry.
Okay, well, there you go.
Good, I had the worst memory here. Correct.
Yeah. Okay, next up is RPL liaison.
Intermunicipal.
I will get it together sometime tonight. This is what happens when you tell your wife you're going to wake up early and get the kids off to school. I did that this morning, and I tell you, I'm regretting it. That's one of the hardest jobs in the world, so I'm still recovering. So next up is the intermunicipal agreement ordinance softball.
And that's an easy one, Mr. Chair, in the sense that I was not able to prepare the ordinance because we got a request from Lower Mount Bethel Township to change or add something to the agreement. So until the change or addition would be made, obviously I could not advertise or have the ordinance ready for adoption. They would like in the agreement to indicate that Upper Mount Bethel Township will administer full background checks on all of the coaches and the township pay for that. So since that's something that's going to be money spent by the township, that wasn't something I could just agree to. It had to come before the board here for discussion. My concern is if is it just Upper Mount Bethel Township coaches? Is it going to be coaches from other municipalities? What about the parent helpers or parent coaches? I mean, I think you got to do the full panoply if in fact that's what the township wants to do and pay for that, and that would be not only criminal background checks, but probably the sexual abuse checks too. So
I agree. I mean, that's under the pass the trash law, and which is required in Pennsylvania. So yeah, I would say you have to do the whole, like our solicitor said, the whole backgrounds.
Just to clarify, the township does run background checks for anybody involved in the youth sports programs now. The person who's applying for that position has to request a background check from either the state or federal agencies, and then they submit those reports to us. So the cost is separate, because we put the cost on the person applying for the role, not the township. The onus, I think, is that the township makes sure that we have background checks for anybody involved in the youth sports programs, which we do. Not necessarily that the township has to pay for it.
Okay.
well, the email was that they want the township to pay for them, but if in fact that payment is made through some other source or some other internal resolution, then I'm sure that Lower Mount Bethel won't care as long as the checks are done.
Yeah, okay. So at this time, Ron, should we table it?
No, I would say that if in fact that's what the supervisors agree to do, make a motion to pass that, and then we'll just make the change in the intermunicipal agreement, and then I can do the ordinance so we can get it advertised.
Okay. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the intermunicipal agreement ordinance for softball?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, RPL liaison. And this was added to the agenda. Jonathan, this was actually your idea, so I'll let you, I should have put your name here instead of my name. So go ahead and just talk to us about that.
We definitely need to create some kind of dialogue between RPL, who purchased the I-2 and I-3 industrial area, in order to start moving ahead instead of battling with one another. We need to try and get on some kind of equal talking points. I'm hesitant to have just one liaison, and if we could have two, if that's a possibility, that might work better given the animosity between some town members and the developer. But it feels like we're just beating around a bush. They're trying to get things done, and our residents are in disagreement. We represent our constituents, so that's who we're trying to voice their concerns on. So I will make a motion to set up a RPL liaison.
Okay, you made the motion. Is there a second or any discussion? Is there a second? Okay, there's no second at this time. What I think we should discuss is, and I agree, Jonathan, that we need something to open up the talks with RPL. I think, how do we do it? I mean, is there any supervisor who feels we should not be talking to them at all?
I feel they should talk to us as a whole.
No, there are outlets. I mean, they've made presentations to the Economic Development Committee. They've been in front of the Planning Commission. So I think, we have, they can come in front of they can come in front of the EAC. So there are outlets, if they want to come and make presentations, that can eventually get back to us.
I guess the concern is if, say RPL wants to talk to us about, I don't know, they've got a manufacturer that they're bringing in and they want to tell us about it. Okay, so we put them on the agenda and they come and talk to the supervisors as a whole. But, and I'm not saying we have to make a decision tonight, but something to think about. What if they have to, what if they, we have meetings every 2 weeks. I guess we could call a special meeting if they needed something immediate, and that would get all the supervisors together, because we only have to give 24-hour notice. I guess my concern, if anybody sees this, is what if they have to somehow speak to the supervisors and say, Lisa says, well, I've got a quick question to ask them, and if I have a quick question, I've got to get on the agenda for a special meeting, speak to all of them at once, when I could spend 5 minutes and call Corey or call Jonathan and get a quick answer. I guess that's something that we need to think about.
What I've personally seen on my short time on this board is that emotions do start to fly when we are in a setting such as this with strong-minded people. I think no progress is the wrong move if we can set something up to, I'm not talking about backroom deals. That's why I'm thinking that maybe 2 liaisons might be better than 1, but there are a lot of things that are concerns. And when emotions are high, we lose track of the logical way to pursue and to handle these concerns, and negotiations fall apart. As it was mentioned at the last meeting, that people thought that we were on the right track, and I believe that also. And when I asked Mr. Pector if he wanted to say something before the vote is when it all fell apart. So I would just like to try and remove emotions from moving forward and thinking about it on handling our residents' actual concerns, trying to get restrictions in place and not just to heck with them, we don't want them here, because that's not the proper way to manage a township.
Jason, any thoughts on this?
No, I just need more time to think on it.
You need time to
Yeah, I need time to.
Okay. Oh, yeah, sorry, Mark.
A couple of years back, we drafted a charter for a liaison group. You remember myself, yourself, Scott Minnick, Nick Puglisi, and there was one other guy whose name I can't seem to remember, but he was the public relations guy. But the idea was that we were going to try to streamline communications between RPL, the Board of Supervisors, and the community. And I remember right, it was like we would have regular meetings where we could just get status reviews for different things and express community issues back to the developer, and just keep the communication line open. So it really isn't any kind of a decision-making or influential type of a role. It's just a communication conduit. So I still have all that stuff if you want to look at it again. We did write a charter. We did put our expectations together, and I don't know if we did anything else, but do you remember that?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something to think about. Maybe we table this for now and come back to it on the 25th. We can look at it on the 25th. Jason, David, thoughts?
Maybe we can table this to our workshop meeting, and if Mr. Metzger or Mr. Erler or anybody from EPF or RPL has any thoughts on this, they can contact us. So I'll make a motion we table this to our next workshop meeting.
Okay, do we have a second? I'll go ahead and second it. Any other discussion?
I'm a fan of making the same mistake twice, so Lisa, would you like to comment on this? If you don't want to, we fully understand.
We finally called on the right Pector. Hopefully things would have gone a little smoother, and actually if my father were in town, he would have apologized for letting his frustration get the better of him. But now we're stuck in this moves and counter moves, and instead of both developer, you're always looking for the future, the Board of Supervisors, in your seats, you're always looking to the future. And I think if we continue to be at odds, neither of us are going to win in having a good project for the community that the community generations from now can be proud of. Having multiple generations be working in the township at facilities here in the township, just like companies like Ultra Poly. So with that said, yes, we would be open to 1, 2, maybe there's a pro and a con person, like maybe it's not always the same people, but it is helpful to have someone who is either gathering some questions prior to us making a presentation, so we have points that the community wants to hear rather than having a 2-hour-long dialogue on things that might not be the key pieces of information that the community is interested in hearing. You know, maybe there is other things that occur, like when we have prospects come through, we would always talk to prior supervisors and say, you know, we think that this user is going to have too high of a truck count. We're thinking you're not going to want them here. And they would agree, and we'd be like, sorry, we're no longer in communication with that prospect for that property. So we, you know, do have smaller instances where it's like, hey, we had an idea on this. You know, what do you think? Should we bring it in front of the board, or is it, you know, a waste of our time? So there has been a lot of instances where having a liaison in the past was helpful to help lead the discussion to public presentations. So thank you for allowing me to speak. Am I dismissed?
Thank you.
Okay.
Crisis averted.
Any other points of discussion? Okay, that being said, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay, I'll open it back up for public comment. 3 minutes. Anybody want to make a public comment? Charlie.
Okay. All right, I misunderstood.
Charles Cole, 6 Riverton Road. You know, something I have tried to remind myself of over the years is not speak extemporaneously without fully vetting what I'm going to say. But I think the residents are sort of getting beaten upon because of the conflicts here. But there's a certain amount of hypocrisy in this whole thing, because I may be getting old, but I'm not that old that I can't remember some of the things that got thrown out of our township zoning by the text amendment. And there were things in it that included community impact assessment, environmental assessment, transportation assessment that could be done, but nothing could be done about it. There were all these issues that zoning and municipal law put in there to provide just the things that we're talking about doing right now. So if you went back 3 years and said, let's wipe the blackboard clean and start over, maybe that's where we should be. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlie. Anyone else, public comment? I see a hand. Oh.
Judith Henkel, 1752 Robin Hood Road. Thank you very much for getting the EAC back together again. It's been a while, so let me just say, going back to the handbook about 20 years ago, I think these are 3-year terms. I'm sorry it made it so difficult to figure that out. 3-year terms, you had to stagger them right now, but when anybody's term is up, they can ask to be reappointed for another 3-year term. So having said that, now I'm going to throw something else at you. Because we were waiting for a while to get this finalized, we've talked amongst ourselves and came up with a meeting night. That's tomorrow night. So I want to know, can we jump right in there and can we meet tomorrow night? If we do, we don't have a liaison and we need somebody to unlock the door and lock it back up again.
What time's your meeting at?
7, the way it usually is. 7, the second Tuesday of the month. Otherwise, we wait another whole month to get going.
I'll be the unofficial liaison to appoint it.
Okay, having said that, then finally, we do not want to get thrown into the whole discussion on RPL. That is not why we asked to have an EAC. We want to go back to originally, and that could be a part of it, but I think rereading the, and sorry, my electric went out, and I haven't gotten a chance at the last minute to look. There are things in the original ordinance that pertain to open space. And back then in 2000, it was all under one blanket. EICs were getting organized. We decided here in this township to separate them out. Open space became its own entity, and so EAC is not going to be looking at properties or whatever. We may help them with things, but not. But there are a lot of other things that got put on the back burner that we want to look into. And so I think looking at, and I may say it the next time, looking at the 4 other people, they're all new, they're all very varied, they have great resumes. The other thing, are we definitely done? Dave's going to open the door. We are hoping one of our big things will be education. We want to talk with the residents. We want to know what's concerning them. We want to interest them in other things that are going on. Dole de Febo is about agriculture, preserve farms. Allison is a Penn State watershed specialist. There's so many, and I think Alexandria has such a resume. Yeah, well, she should be our chairperson maybe, but she's got solar, they've got all these backgrounds. And what I've heard over the last 3 years from the people in this township, we have so many really very well-educated people in various different, positions. I want them all to come. Yeah, don't be afraid. Just come. We're going to be friendly. We're going to speak up, and we want to hear all points of view.
Okay, thank you, Judy. So that's the Environmental Advisory Committee. Their first meeting is tomorrow night at the Township Building at 7 p.m. Anyone else? Public comment? Come on up, Ron.
Time for a little bit of a reality check, I think. I think we all know that a large percentage of Upper Mount Bethel Township is not taxable. River Point would have produced a lot of tax revenue. So along the lines of spending money, could I inquire, you hired Mr. Cousins from Gross McGinley to advise you at $160 an hour. Our learned solicitor, Mr. Karasak, I think makes $125 an hour. And my question is, if Gross McGinley goes to litigation, and it certainly would appear to me we're headed towards litigation, what would their hourly rate be?
We haven't discussed that yet, Ron.
Well, let's say he needs to go to litigation next week. Shouldn't we know what his hourly rate would be? Or the firm's hourly rate would be?
Ron, I'd like to repeat after Mr. Teal. This is public comment, not questions.
Oh, okay, very good. Let me make some comments.
I'm learning from my
No
elders.
problem, I understand. Several of you, when you ran for office, promised people you are going to stop River Point. I don't think you're... Do I have to listen to this?
Let Ron speak, please.
Yeah. What's going to happen here, I could be wrong, but I have a little bit of knowledge about government and a little bit of knowledge about finance. What's going to happen here without a municipal authority, the end result will be, if these people who all didn't want to see truck traffic and you didn't want to see warehouses, I could be wrong. I'm not a developer, never developed anything in my life that I know of. You're going to probably see, based on the action you're taking, you're going to see warehouses. Just the opposite of what the concern here was. Okay? And again, we have a lot of road projects on the go. And again, like Nick said, roads are number one in this township. Where are the money going to come from for roads? So I'll finish up before my 3 minutes, by the way. Let me make a projection. You're going to see a massive tax increase next year, undisputedly. And again, I am pretty knowledgeable about government and taxes. and you're going to see more turmoil than you've ever seen before. So whatever you think you accomplished tonight, I think you've probably accomplished just the opposite. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comment? Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, I'm Michael Onufrak, O-N-U-F-R-A-K. I live at 43 Summerfield Drive. Just to respond to a couple of things that Mr. Engel said. My impression is that you dissolved the municipal authority today. That doesn't mean you can't reestablish a municipal authority somewhere down the road when maybe we really need it. But that's up for you guys to decide. The LERTA was given to RPL with the idea that they're bringing in manufacturers, not warehouses. If they bring in warehouses, because some of us think that's really what they're going to bring in, 1.5 million square foot building, some of us anyway, don't believe it's for manufacturing. Could be wrong, because I don't know. All along we've asked RPL, who are you talking to? Who are the respective tenants? And the answer we get is, we don't have to tell you. Not that we don't know. We don't have to tell you until somewhere else down the line. Maybe if they were a little bit more open, and this goes to you, Jonathan, I think the idea of liaisons is a good idea, and I think Mark said there was already a group that was supposed to be doing this, maybe. I think you should reinstate that. Not one person. It should be a group. And part of that group could be those people that think that this is a great project, whether that's Mr. Engel or someone else, but it also should include those of us who have a point to make about why this project, as suggested, isn't right for this town. Mr. Engel is wrong when he says that you guys, some of you guys got elected because you were going to stop RPL. That is absolutely a lie. That is not the case. That is not the case. I've never heard anybody on the board, including Dave Friedman, say, I'm totally opposed to RPL developing this. That's just not true. What's true is most of us have said, we understand it's zoned industrial. Mr. Pector bought it. He has a right to develop it. Our objection is the sheer size, the number of buildings, the square footage, the amount of truck traffic and car traffic is way too much for this town's roads. You talked about how much money we're spending on the roads. You could probably triple it if they get to do exactly what they want. Some of us also are opposed to the drip irrigation field being put on Mr. Engel's farm. We don't think it's appropriate. I certainly don't think it's appropriate because it's my backyard. Find another way of doing it, and I think some of their opposition would go away. I hope they are willing to compromise, because I think we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Ron, he was speaking directly to the board.
Hold on.
A development is certainly worth much more money if there's manufacturing. Without the sewage facility, there probably won't be manufacturing. That's what I meant by that. Whatever he just said, it makes no sense at all in the real world of business. So
okay, no more debating each other. You make your public comment, and that's it. Anyone else public comment? Marty.
Marty Penner, 39 Lindsay Lane, Mount Bethel, Pennsylvania. Just want to hit on a couple of topics. I think the ability to reach out and to start that dialogue would have been to table and to have the discussion with the authority, but you guys stepped on that. All it took was you just basically said you don't want to listen. After that, sure, you could reestablish the authority, but what plant are you going to have? The agreement was with the authority, but they don't have to give it to you. They could basically take the plant, build it, then sell it to a PUC, And then you guys are really screwed. You're really screwed. Because the PUC will come in here and say, everybody on Potomac, you will absolutely connect, and you will pay the tapping fees. In the agreement that we had, there were no tapping fees for anybody in area of concern A. The authority gave us the ability to say, you can connect and you don't have to based on your situation. So you guys can reestablish another authority, but they don't have to give you the plan. They could sell it to a PUC, and then we're all screwed. Because everybody is going to pay for it, because then they'll buy the one in East Bangor. And then they'll buy the one over in Rosetto, Bangor, and they're going to make everybody connect to it. So, you know, I know you guys, congratulations on throwing a grenade into it. That's what you guys had all planned to do. But you guys really screwed the community tonight. You really did. And that's because you guys didn't take the time to just have a discussion with the authority, with our engineer, to figure out what it's all about. I'm disappointed because you guys said you were in transparency. That's what you ran on, was transparency. But the vote again tonight to re-dissolve it showed that it wasn't transparent. You guys had talked about this. You guys had already had a resolution done. It was already done in the back room. Completely shows that you're against the transparency. Transparency is having a liaison group. Didn't even get a second on it. And then we had discussion on it. And it's crazy. It really is.
Thank you. Mark.
Busted a chair.
Mark.
There goes the budget.
Nah, I hit the block.
Mark Metzger, 114 Scenic Court. You know, I have no doubt that the pro-authority people believe what they're saying. What I question is, what is the basis for that belief? Is this something that somebody has told them? Is this something that has been studied and they have the facts that they can draw from? Is this just a gut feel? What are they basing all of these things on? What Mr. Pinter just talked about has business implications all around, okay? People are going to make those decisions based on what these facts are. That's why you do the feasibility studies in the beginning, to sort all these things out. That was never done. We don't have a good idea as to what we do. I think we've got a lot of people's feelings about the matter, but let's take the emotions out of it and get down to making fact-based decisions.
Thank you, Mark. Anyone else? Public comment? Yeah, Joe, come on up.
I hope the closing of Institute Drive isn't too much this year.
No, the turtles and the salamanders are doing good.
Good.
Joe Torre, Institute Road. I've been coming here for the last couple of months, and you hear everybody's comments. And respectfully so, everybody has a right to their comment. But the only way you're going to finish all this is you need mediation. You need mediators. And you got to get in a room and you got to talk. And that's the only way you're going to get this solved. You can't keep beating around the bush. You got to get it done. You hear Mr. Pintner? You hear Ron Engel? They're speaking facts. Mr. Eller, I tip my hat off to you. If I could, I'd volunteer and I'd go with you to be on that liaison. But I can't because I'm not on the committee. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, Bill.
Bill Hall, Jacoby Run Road, Upper Mount Bethel. There's been a lot of talk, particularly tonight, about leadership, which is kind of a joke, because there is no leadership here. Leadership requires vision. It requires discipline. It requires being able to sit and think and come up with what is best for all. It can't be emotional. It can't be what, by the way, in the development world around the country, they call NIMBYs, not in my backyard. I've seen it because of what I do in my career. You do nothing, or you get into these kinds of arguments and nothing moves forward, you get exactly what you don't want because you're stuck. The rational mind says, and we've talked about this, let's sit down and have rational conversations. It's okay to disagree. The more you discuss it, keep the emotions out of it, we find the right plan that works. Then you have a vision. From a vision comes leadership. From leadership comes strategy. And from strategy comes the right actions to get where we all need to be. Because if we don't move forward on this, we're not going to be where we want to be. We're certainly not going to be where we need to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Anyone else? Public comment? Okay. We are heading to executive session to discuss a personnel matter, and then we'll return and be back out. We'll call this meeting back into order. It is 9:10 p.m. So we went into executive session. We talked about a personnel matter. At this time, are there any supervisors who want to make a motion?
I move that a meeting be set between our manager, Nick Stavros, and
Chris Callie,
to discuss electronic communications going forward for the town.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thanks for attending, guys. Have a good night.